Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Single Parent Daily Podcast with your hosts,
Katy Dunmore.
and Evan DeMarco. At least that's who I play on TV.
Just for today.
Just for today. Super stoked. So the great thing is we were just chatting that technology has brought us close together, but in one way it's kind of kept us apart because our guest is literally 15 miles down the road.
Literally.
15 miles down the road, but we're using the digital connection of Zoom, which screw you, Zoom, because I hate you like with the fiery passion of 1,000 suns right now. But that is not our guest's fault. So Katy Tenner, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So who are you? Like, tell us about you. What's your sign? You know,
What's my sign? Well, I'm in my car. This is not a stolen car, which is my office. But I feel the need to specify. I'm not sure why. I don't know why my suburban mom self would ever steal a car, but I'll never say never.
I was just thinking as I was looking at you, like, that's a stolen ride.
That's just funny.
Definitely. Most definitely. I've got the face of a car thief. So I'm here in Sacramento. I'm a registered dietitian, and personally, I'm a mom of 2 young kids, 4 years and 6 years. And, I'm just trying to live through this whole COVID thing, survive distance learning, work in healthcare, juggle a million things. It's really just kind of another day in motherhood, really.
Yeah.
Wow. And so, but now you were actually featured on Good Morning America, correct?
Let's see. Maybe. I don't know. So there was a press release of the study, the monoclonal antibody study that I'm in, and I don't know exactly which outlets picked it up. But I did an interview about the process of all of the stuff that I went through and the injections and everything.
Oh, gotcha. Cool. And so I think outside of the nutrition side, and I know we definitely want to talk about that, you're kind of known in social circles for just basically being a hilarious smartass.
Yes. Like, I'm not in a stolen car right now.
My husband would agree wholeheartedly on the sarcastic smartass.
This is going to be a fun interview.
I'm a joy to live with.
Cool. All right, so you've got a 4 and a 6-year-old in the age of COVID. Are you doing distance learning right now?
Yeah.
Lord help me, yes I am. Yes. I can't say that without sighing.
Yeah,
because
that makes all of us.
It's just I could say many horrible things about what it is, but it is a shit show. It really is. Mm-hmm. Like any parent would agree with me on that one.
Oh, believe me. I went off. We had a podcast that we did last week where I went off on it, and I think we've all gone off. And again, we're not. It's not the teacher's fault. It's not the district's fault. Everybody's doing what they can, but as parents,
we're all having a hard time.
We're losing our shit.
And we're all managing jobs and our mentality.
You have that? I lost mine weeks ago. The first time that we tried to log into a Zoom PE class, I just curled up in the fetal position and sucked my thumb.
Kind of a funny story about the Zoom PE class is my daughter, she's also 6, refused to do it. She's very shy. I think that the Zoom thing is a very abstract concept for her. And so I thought, you know what, I'll do it with you. I'll be right here by your side and we'll do it together. And they were doing all these calisthenics. I was sore for about a week.
Yeah.
I've been quite sedentary during COVID, and I was sore in weird places like my elbow hinge and stuff. And, I was taking ibuprofen. Zoom PE is no joke.
Yeah, my daughter has me doing miles with her now. She waits, she won't do it. And then she's like, hey, Mom, I got to do the mile. That means you got to do the mile with me because I can't run alone outside. And I'm like, this little kid. And she knows I hate running. So, yeah, it's
it's a whole new world.
Parents are not liking the PE classes.
So, Kate, go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, I just I want to touch base on, you said that you're in your car right now. You're doing this interview for us, and we highly thank you for that. But you're a dietitian, and talk about that, in this, world right now where I think you're in like you're dealing with much older people right now.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I work at a skilled nursing facility. If you didn't know what one was before COVID, you definitely do now, because that's where it's just ravaged the elderly population this virus has. And I also do some consulting with residential homes, people that have severe developmental delay, people that are on respirators and artificial nutrition and that kind of stuff. And so I've just been working around a very, very delicate population for the entirety of this pandemic.
And here in Northern California, have you really had a lot of exposure to the virus itself in some of the places that you're working with?
I've worked with positive patients and have never tested positive, knock on wood, myself. But I haven't been in, you see all these pictures on the news of people and, with the patients in the ICU and just like the very stereotypical picture of somebody who's battling this disease. I haven't been working with them one-on-one, but yes, some of my patients have been positive, and
so as a parent, I guess
loss.
My question then is, you've kind of got the bifurcated life of you're still working, you're out in the field with a job where you're around patients, and then you come home, with your kids. Is there a little bit of fear in that, kind of having to be a little bit more exposed than perhaps the average person, and then, just bringing that home with you, or is you kind of just have the attitude of, what will be will be?
At first, I was terrified because, none of us really knew what this thing was. And as it has kind of weighed on and we're seeing more effective treatments and stuff, I'm not nearly as paranoid as I have been. And I think most healthcare workers as a whole, tend to be less paranoid about things like germs and stuff like that, because we're just confronted with it all the time. I've worked with tuberculosis patients and AIDS patients and, a lot of different types of infectious disease. So it's just kind of something that you get used to. But at first, when it was kind of unknown, I thought, oh, I'm going to have to camp out in my garage like so many of these other healthcare workers have been. And now I'm just kind of a little bit over it, to be honest.
I think we all are. I think, as the great 21st century philosopher Evan DeMarco said, "Fuck 2020."
I think a lot of us have.
Yeah, I agree with him. I need to get his book.
It's coming out next month.
Okay.
Yeah. In paperback.
Is that the title? Fuck 2020? Or?
Yeah, fuck 2020.
Yes, and then there's going to be a sequel in 2021, because I don't think that this is changing anytime soon.
No.
Yeah.
How are you doing the distance learning with you having a full-time job, or I'm not sure what your job like entails as far as like the hours or whatnot, but how are you doing the distance learning with your kids and knowing that like how like what's going on with people getting sick, even though you just said right now that you're more lenient on just like, okay, it's something that I'm just becoming more, it's a reflex, but how are you like doing all that? Because it's almost like any mom is a super mom, but where's your mentality at with the kids as far as distance learning, and then knowing you have to manage a full-time job, because we're trying to figure that out still.
I don't think I'm coping well, to be very honest. Anybody who follows my Instagram page is like, hopefully this girl's taking some sertraline or something, because dang, I'm not coping well. But I think that I am fortunate personally in the sense that my daughter's only 6. My son is 4. He's not even probably going to remember this time. And so if this year is kind of a wash for her, then that's not going to affect her getting into Harvard Law or something like that. Whereas some of these kids who are high school seniors and in high school, that's a lot more difficult. And so if I'm not coping well and I have a 6-year-old, I can't even imagine what parents who have 5 kids or who have kids that are in junior high and high school are doing. That's got to be really difficult. I've just kind of lowered my expectations way down as far as what she's going to learn, what she's going to do. and just kind of go from there.
It's funny that you said that you're lowering your expectations. We had an interview earlier with a psychologist who said, as parents going through this time, we have to lower our expectations as far as
Yeah.
like, you know, doing the best that we can do. Because if not, there should never be a level of perfection because it's not going to happen. Not during this time.
No, we're rearranging deck furniture on the Titanic right now.
That's the best analogy ever.
I think of that scene from the movie where it's I remember who it was. It was one of the historical figures, and they're like, you need to get to the life raft, and he's like, nope, we're dressed in our best and ready to go down like gentlemen. I'm like, that's I'm just gonna put on a suit and just sit out there like whiskey, and I don't even drink whiskey, but it just seemed appropriate. Like,
That's funny.
I think that was the violin players, the little mini orchestra that they had. I think that's.
Oh no,
those
it was
were the guys
Guggenheim.
that
It was
said that.
Guggenheim.
Oh,
they
was it?
shot
Okay,
Guggenheim in
okay.
the thing is yeah, and he was his like Guggenheim and his valet, and they're just like, we're dressed in our best and ready to go down like gentlemen. I'm like, can we have a whiskey? Like, okay, like that's
Yeah.
that's how we are. We're dressed in our worst because putting pants on most days is a challenge, and we're just ready to go down like single parents or married parents. So
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit. I guess I want to get into the nutrition side of things a little bit too, kind of circling. But we're just having fun. This is a great conversation. As a parent trying to parent in the age of COVID, are you guys doing anything different nutrition wise? Is it mac and cheese every day, or are you trying to stay healthy? Because as a health guy, I'm kind of like, I'm just throwing my hands in the air.
And he's a healthy person. I think all of us, just in the healthy or not, we're all like.
Yeah. Again, lowering those expectations. It comes and goes in waves. Like sometimes I'm thinking, okay, we can't just completely let ourselves go, and then the next week it's well, you're gonna have goldfish for breakfast. That's fine. They're at least they're the colored ones, so you're eating a variety of colored food. It depends on my energy level and kind of just what mood I'm in. There are just so many days, and I think this is just parenthood in general, where you just have those like fuck it days where you're just like, okay, whatever, the place is on fire, or nobody's wearing pants, whatever. And then there's the other days where we're like, okay, that we're in this for the long haul, so we should probably kind of get our acts together a little bit. It fluctuates.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Although it seems like every day that the house is on fire.
Well, yeah, you mentioned earlier artificial, something with artificial nutrients, like you're giving probably the patients like food that's probably not real. I could have sworn I heard you say that.
Oh yeah, sorry. When artificial nutrition is like tube feeding, so anybody who is being fed through a tube, that's called artificial nutrients. It's real nutrients, but it's just it's not bananas and fruit and meat and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I think to that extent, Ensure is considered, which I know is run Ensure. No, but like that,
I know,
because Ensure is it's a medical food.
Yeah,
it's got the designation of a medical food, and so it gets handed out in nursing homes and extended care facilities and hospice care, like Tic Tacs, and like I wouldn't give, I wouldn't give my worst enemy that stuff.
Yeah, my grandma.
It's crap in a bottle.
Yeah. She's smiling.
You'd be shocked how many people love it. The smell of it completely turns me off, but there are people who love it. So.
Oh no! Like go to Costco and you see like people pulling cases of it off. I'm like, have some real food.
My grandma loves those. She doesn't want real food too.
Gotta get. I mean, like there's the sarcopenia. And muscle protein breakdown at certain ages is real, and there's protein in that, but there's some better sources, especially some more bioavailable sources. We'll talk after that. Actually, we'll all talk. Because we're just random today.
Do you, so as a dietitian, do you have like a particular diet with your kids? Because you just right now you're like, oh, F it with the goldfish and stuff. But like, what is something that you highly recommend? Like someone who is like, hey, I need some help right now. Like I want my kids to like limit a little bit of the sugar and their immune system not to be jeopardized by what's going on right now.
Right. And there's no real specific diet. working as a dietitian and just as somebody who doles out nutrition advice, it's what I have come to learn. A lot of it is undoing myths about food. But I think that decreasing sugar, nobody needs to have sugar in their diet. And what I'm talking about is sucrose, white sugar. That is not a necessity. That's not an essential nutrient. And so I think that everybody could cut that out, especially young kids, because here we are requiring them to sit and pay attention in front of a screen for long periods of time to do this distance learning. And the last thing you want to do is give them something that is going to totally jack them up and then have them crash. And so I've been making an effort to really watch the sugar that my kids are taking in and the added sugars in foods. But I think as a general rule of thumb, that's healthy for any human being to follow those rules too.
Yeah. Katy, do you watch like the Zoom calls with your daughter?
Yeah, yes. I'm laughing because it's funny.
It's a comedic train wreck. And it's like, I think you can tell the ones that are eating too much white sugar because they'll start off focused on the screen, and then it's like 30 seconds to maybe 2 minutes. If they're in one of the spinny chairs, the chair starts spinning, and then they're muted because everybody has to be muted in these things. And then they're like, "Mom!" You can tell they're yelling at mom for more sugar or heroin or whatever it is that they're taking.
Crack.
I need more snacks.
The ones that go like this, that kind of go like this, and then you don't see them anymore. Those are the ones that are just crashing.
Or they're just out playing, they're like, they think if they slowly slide down in their chair that nobody's going to notice that they're not there. Like,
yeah, I love watching the Zoom calls. My daughter hates it. She's a lot like my husband, where all the chaos and the background noise, it really affects her. And I've almost thought that maybe she might be somewhere on the autism spectrum at different points in her life, not just now, but leading up to this point, because excessive noise and distractions really drive her bonkers. But I love watching the calls because you've got the one kid who wants to talk about his dog's farts, and then you've got every kid that wants to talk about their loose tooth, and they're 6-year-olds, so all of their teeth are falling out. And it's just the comments, and then you'll hear a mom in the background saying, don't point the camera towards me, mommy's still in her pajamas. And it's great. It's comedy. I should take it more seriously. I really should. But.
No, but you can't, and that's the problem, right? Like, the teachers aren't taking it seriously. The kids aren't taking it seriously. And it reminds me of that movie Kindergarten Cop with Arnold Schwarzenegger. The kid's like, my daddy looks at vaginas all day long. It's like, these are kids. And now they've got like this vocal public forum where they're on camera. So now we're turning, like, my other concern, don't take this personally, is that we're like creating the next generation of like Instagram whores.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that sexually. I just mean that like media whores, right?
Yeah.
Why would I take offense to that?
I'm not going to answer.
I think he just called you an Instagram whore. I don't know.
I don't know.
No, you're an Instagram. You've got legitimate influence. It's the people out there that are just like, it's all about likes.
Take offense to that. Yeah.
But I think we're creating this culture more so than we had before, where like they're vying for screen time now. It's like you have to get screen time to get attention from your teacher.
Yeah.
It's lunacy.
It is. And, I think that that's one of the things that I take comfort in, and maybe I'm totally delusional for thinking this, but the fact that my daughter hates it so much, and she's like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to be on here, I almost kind of feel okay about that, because if she were one of those kids that wanted to be all up in everybody's grill on Zoom call, I would kind of, I guess I might be worried about that. At least that's how I justify it to myself, and I'm sticking to it.
No. And my 6-year-old daughter is the exact same way. She hates it. We've tried to, as you said, MacGyver around it. But I think at this point, what we've done is we've done the pods, where we've got a couple parents from the school who have agreed to, take a specific day and teach the curriculum to that day. And so it gives the rest of us parents the ability to work and to get caught up and to do something, of value versus, distance learning requires a parent to be in the seat next to the kid from like 9 to 2. It's just not feasible. You can't work, produce an income, put food on the table, and be an educator. And so, the expectations now for parents are so much different than they were 6 months ago. And
I
as
have
you,
a high schooler, so it's a lot different. I don't
Oh,
know, but it's a lot of other stuff going on, so it's much
yeah.
more. It's tough. It's really tough.
And I think the high schoolers are the ones that are really feeling isolated
Yeah,
from their friends.
she actually just started going to school 2 times a week.
Oh, good.
But even that's been like not enough. She can't wait to. But it's because they're isolating them, so they can't touch anything. They have masks. They like
Yeah,
they can't even
yeah,
talk to their friends close. They have to have.
right.
So she's just like, what am I going
well,
to
all
school
it's going to
for?
take is one outbreak, right? And then everything's going to get shut down and we'll be back to distance learning.
Yeah.
You know, and look, you know, there's the responsibility thing of let's get out in front of it, you know, whatever, but that's a conversation for another time. That took a left turn into Bummerville.
Positive vibe, guys. Positive vibe.
All right, Katie, what's your
It's hard. This is 2020. Positive vibes left a long time ago.
yeah? Now we're just left with alcohol.
Fair
But
enough.
you know, by the way, I will bet dollars to pesos that half of those teachers on Zoom calls, their coffee cup is filled with wine.
Oh, yeah. You know, there needs to be kind of like a cocktail delivery service because you're like, I just want to buy her a drink. That's what I think about when I watch my daughter's teacher is give this woman a drink. She deserves it. She just listened to dog
Totally.
fart stories and loose tooth. And, but yeah, there should be that.
When is
That'll be my
Uber
next
going to start delivering booze?
Uber doesn't do it, but we have grocery stores that do it. I don't
Really?
know why I know this, but
Voice of
No
experience.
judgment.
Yeah, no judgment.
I'm all Bel Air and
I mean,
safe.
come on, like seriously, think about that. Like alcohol delivery versus drinking and driving. I mean, like this is the most make sense thing out there.
I mean, it's working.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Good times.
I don't know what you call it. Booze and Uber. I can only think of boober. So boozer,
like
I
it.
guess,
Boober.
maybe.
Boober. You know what? We just started a company. It's you know, run by parents. All the profits go to teachers, and we'll just call it Boober.
I think the profits need to go to parents right now. Teachers are chilling right now.
The teachers have it really hard, and I think that's the one thing that we forget is the parents are. We're struggling with the frustrations of the kids. We're struggling with our own frustrations, but the teachers were never taught how to do this.
Yeah.
No one ever expected that they were going to have to. You know, college professors, I think, get it because you know e-learning has been
Yeah, that's
a
true.
reality in college. But then the onus is on the college student who's adult enough to say, yes, I'm going to participate in this, or I'm going to get the information and then do something with it. You know, a first grader, being in first grade is about playing kickball and being social and being
Yeah.
with your kids, you know, being with your friends.
Yeah.
It's not about staring at a screen and don't get me started. This is tea and I wish it were alcohol. So Katie, what else is going on with you? What else is going on in your world right now?
Oh boy, in my world. You know, it's just been work so long that there has been little time else for anything. We moved in April. I was telling Katya yesterday, we moved in April because we hate ourselves. Trying to sell and buy a house in the middle of a pandemic and move all of your belongings, it's just, I don't recommend it. I really don't.
No.
It's over with now, but we moved out to Roseville. And my husband took a job at the new high school out there. He's a high school teacher. Speaking of teachers who are very fed up with this online learning thing.
Yeah.
So that's consumed quite a bit of time. And then just trying to survive and trying to keep positive and not let this affect my kids too much, this moment in time, history too much.
I think the best way to do this is go on vacation and then accidentally set an all-consuming fire at your house. So then when you come back, everything that you owned is burned to the ground, that you collect the insurance check, and then just move into your new place.
That would have been easier. I wish I had talked to you back in April because that would have been much easier.
No, now that we've said that, if
Evan's
we
thought
do it,
about
I
it.
think that we're going to go to jail for insurance fraud. So maybe not the best idea
Yeah.
now, but you know, hey.
Take this off the record in case there's ever a subpoena later on down the road.
Yeah. We actually forgot to share the safe word with you. So
Oh, okay.
we do have a safe word on this podcast. So if there's ever anything that we say that you want, you know, all you have to do is say cinnamon, and then that'll be our recognition that.
Heads up to delete it out.
Yeah. Because every podcast should
Okay.
have a safe word.
Yeah.
I think so.
You're like, shit, I said that out loud.
Podcast and life.
Cinnamon.
Everything needs everything. And I don't know why. You know, the best part is cinnamon has been a safe word for my podcast for so long. So then, like, my daughter she really loves acorn squash right now. And so we're eating a lot of that, and she likes cinnamon on it. So every time she's like, Daddy, could I have an acorn squash with cinnamon? And I start looking around. I'm like, what did I do? What did I do?
PTSD.
Yeah. I've got
That's
safe word
great that she loves
PTSD.
acorn squash. The only thing yellow my kids will eat is fruit snacks, and that's about it.
Fruit snacks and fruit snacks. You know, it's funny, like, best laid plans of mice and men, right? I think as parents, I had this altruistic idea that I was gonna like make all of her food, and I was gonna I got the baby blender, and I did all that. That lasted like 24 hours. I'm like, why the hell am I doing this? I can buy organic at the grocery store. And then once she started eating real food, it was like quinoa and salmon, and then that lasted like a week. And you know, it's the highs and lows. It's instilling good habits now. Now, one thing interesting, I'd love to get your take on this from the nutrition side, is I interviewed a doctor earlier who was really talking about metabolic inflexibility in kids and how we're seeing T cell degradation, memory, you know, basically our immune memory cells with kids that are obese. Even if they lose the weight, that those cells never come back to the point that they're able to really have an effective defense against these viruses. So I think that it's something that, as we talk about parents being a little bit more flexible or relaxed in the beginning, the science is dictating that I think we need to be a little bit more aggressive in what it is that we're feeding our kids so that they don't end up with systemic issues down the road.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer, I
Yeah.
think. I think we all
I
should
agree
know
with that completely. It's there are a lot of irreversible damages that are done to the body with incorrect diet, especially a chronic incorrect diet. If 2020 could be a little bit of a wash, but for the long haul, you got to be feeding those kids right. And it's hard. It's hard. There's a lot of people that don't have access necessarily to those foods, but it is it's interesting to see a lot of the studies. They are doing more of the pediatric type studies for nutrition.
Yeah. It's a strange new world.
Yeah.
And it's funny because what you're saying is like you had all of these ideas of altruistic feeding of your children, and as a dietitian, oh my gosh, I felt like the pressure was on. I'm going to homemade organic baby food, and I still have one of those baby bullets in my cupboard that has yet to be used. I'm willing to admit that.
No, I did the same thing. It was
Awesome
like,
that you did.
like I remember going to the farmer's market and, buying all the organic vegetables and coming back. And I'm like, how did I just spend like $200 at a farmer's market? I couldn't figure that one out. And then life just gets in the way.
And you're like the powder.
Yeah. Like,
You're like, there's my greens.
it's just,
Guilty.
And in the beginning, you talk about it. In the beginning, there was such a huge amount of guilt for not doing those things. And I think as time goes by, you just recognize that, you can't do it all. We can't be super parents. It's okay to fail. And I don't know about your daughter, but one of the things that they've been focusing on in this school year is mindset. And I love the fact that they're talking about mistakes are proof that you're trying. And we did the fuck up nights thing, but it's really reframing failure as a positive thing. And it's been so refreshing.
Can you explain to her what you just said?
Oh.
She's like, what did you say?
Like
Fuck up nights?
Yeah.
Like,
So,
that sounds like fun. What?
So what was that? 8 months ago?
Yeah, there's actually a franchise it's called Fuck Up Nights, and it's speakers who are entrepreneurs or people who've been in any success of like anything, and you go onto the stage and you talk about your biggest fuck up and how it's made you who you are and where you're at right now, and how it's actually like it's beneficial for all of us.
But here's the beauty, and this is where I'm going to call you out, because yours was awesome, and you can actually see it you can see it somewhere. We got to find that. But the interesting thing is what they don't want you to do is have the silver lining at the end. It was like, I fucked up. This is what it was. 7 minutes, your biggest fuck up, and then walk off the stage. And it's this recognition, like, hey, everything doesn't have to turn into wine and roses, right? Like sometimes if you have lemons, they say it's lemons. It's not always going to be lemonade.
Mine was lemons.
Yours was awesome.
Straight
so
up
then
lemons.
that brings up an interesting question. Katy, what is your biggest fuck up?
Oh man, That's a good question. And, as you were talking about it, I was like, gosh, what is my biggest fuck up? And I feel like I have lots of little ones that have snowballed into the biggest fuck up. But I think in general, if I were to okay, not necessarily a fuck up, but I would like to have a do-over on this, is probably just spending most of the middle part of my life so far. I'm middle-aged, so it's like the quarter part of my life, just caring too much about what other people thought about me. I feel like it has paralyzed me at times into making decisions that have eventually affected my life in the long run, and kind of crippled me at times as far as my own development. And if I could just have a do-over, or go back as 40-year-old Katy and go back to 20-year-old Katy and be like, this shit is never even going to matter, so just do you and figure it out. That would probably be it, because I did spend so much time, and I think everybody says that, but I had really crippling anxiety about that. And I would love to have a do-over on that, because that really fucks things up for me.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Do you find that all comes out in your parenting with your kids?
I do a little bit. I grew up with in a very religious household, and not to totally spiral off onto that, but there was a lot of guilt and shame associated with just a lot of things in life. And so, especially having a daughter, I would really like to change that in my parenting. And obviously some of those conversations just haven't come up because she's 6, and I'm not like, hey, let's talk about your sexuality or something, because that's a little ways off. But that is something that I will focus on completely as she ages, doing that completely differently.
That's good. And please, the number of recovering Mormons we've had on this show, and for some reason it's Mormons. I don't know why, but we've probably had 7 or 8 recovering Mormons, who talk about the same thing, is the guilt and the shame, and how that really changed their perspective on life, how that changed how they interacted with the world. It's and especially in college, right? When it's just, don't do this. You're biologically pre-programmed to bump uglies with someone else. That's how we are designed to perpetuate the species. But then you've got a religion saying, don't do that. So all of our natural biological urges became so taboo, and it's it's amazing how much that screws with people, and then how much it screws with your perception of what's right, what's wrong, how are you accepted, how are you not accepted. That's I'm glad you brought that up.
Completely different topic, but yeah. But I think that goes hand in hand with the anxiety, because that's a very vicious cycle. So that probably, that sums it up nicely. Although I'm not a recovering Mormon. I never have been a Mormon, but it's kind of similar in a lot of organized religion, I think.
Okay.
And I grew up in a very Roman Catholic family, so I saw it as well. But it was the Italian Catholics, so that was just every day's an excuse to party. There wasn't the traditional Catholic guilt or the Mormon guilt. It was more just celebration of life, celebration of family. And so, obviously we're not here to bash religion, but there's a lot of anxiety that we do see from that. So I'm glad you brought that up. And I just realized that, as many topics as we've covered, we're going to call this episode Potpourri.
Potpourri. So as long as you don't call it poopery.
That stuff is awesome, by the way.
It does work. It's amazing. It's a great spray.
Yes.
And that's not a hashtag sponsored.
Today's episode is not Potpourri.
No, if they want to sponsor us, send some free product our way. That'd be great. But yes, in general, Potpourri is
it's an essential for every household, because as we know, shit happens.
Oh my gosh. Katy, thank you so much for just being going with the flow today. We appreciate you just riding this wave with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's going with the flow has pretty much been how things have been lately. So.
Yeah, that's how everybody should go to.
Yeah, and I think air quality right now is close to 200, so we're all probably hypoxic anyway. It's
I know.
I'm in my car and I've got the air on recycle, so I'm good,
There we go. I'm gonna go take a nap in mine just to get clean air. Or I'll spray some Potpourri.
Oh, spray Potpourri. I need to take some with me.
Katy, where can people find you?
Where can people find me? I am at Tortured by Toddlers on Instagram and Tortured by Tots, although I changed it to Tortured by 2020 on
Nice.
Twitter. And I completely deleted Facebook because I don't like that anymore, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to stay away from Facebook. But
Yeah.
not that it's bad. Not that it's bad or anything like that. It's just it's been toxic for me. So
My question is, are you registered to vote?
I am
Come
ready.
on, that's
Of course I am.
no, that, but like you log into Facebook and it's like, are you registered to
Oh,
vote?
I
And then you see
know.
all the memes of like, yes, you know, as you've asked me 14 million times, I'm registered to vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's a
so
lot of pressure.
we'll definitely put all your information in the show notes. Obviously, if you guys haven't figured it out by a random conversation today, we've got a very funny lady on the podcast, and you know, as we're all trying to struggle with the lunacy of 2020s, we're trying to find our bearings. I think humor is one of the best ways that we get through this. So definitely excited to share your information with people and let people follow you on your Tortured by Toddlers journey. And you know, hopefully in 2021 we can all get together in person. And you know, have a drink and celebrate what's hopefully the victory of coming out of this alive.
Yeah.
Yes, surviving distance learning, most importantly. I think that's going to be my downfall, if anything.
Yeah. Serenity now.
Good luck with that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Single Parents Daily Podcast with your hosts,
Chadi Denmore.
and Evan DeMarco. Katy Tenner, thank you for being with us. We'll definitely put all our information in the show notes. We highly recommend you follow her on social, interact with us, and then make sure to follow us on iTunes or YouTube or whatever platform you follow your stuff on. And until next time, we'll
Toodaloos.
toodaloos.
Bye, guys.